Las Ciruelas. As they walked to the bus stop, Isabel recited a list of concerns to Esperanza, sounding exactly as Josefina and Mama had sounded earlier that morning. Put Pepe down for a nap first, and when he falls asleep, put Lupe down. Otherwise, it will play and never go to sleep. And Lupe will not eat bananas. I know, said Esperanza, repositioning Pepe on her hip. Isabel handed her Lupe and climbed the steps of the yellow bus. She found a seat and waved from the window. Esperanza wondered who was more worried, she or Isabel. Esperanza struggled to carry both babies back to the cabin. Thank goodness Isabel had already helped her feed and dress them. She settled them on a blanket on the floor with some tin cups and wood blocks, then put the beans into a big pot on the stove. Hortensia had prepared them earlier with a big onion and a few cloves of garlic, and instructed Esperanza to stir them occasionally and let them cook on low heat, adding more water throughout the day. Yes.
Wait, so they gave him tin cups and wood blocks to play with?
Why?
Because I'm like, tin cups, are they going to use that for cooking, or are they going to...
Why do they give them tin cups? Why don't they give them baby toys?
Because they can't afford baby toys.
Right, because they can't afford baby toys. Later, Esperanza looked for something to feed the babies for lunch. A bowl of ripe plums sat on the table. Ooh, ding, ding, ding. What is she going to feed the babies?
Ripe plums.
Ripe plums.
Ripe plums. That means that ya están listos para comer. They're ready to eat. Ya están bien dulces. So a bowl of ripe plums sat on the table. They should be soft enough to eat, she thought. She took several, removed the pits, and smashed them with a fork. Both babies loved them, reaching for more after each spoonful. Esperanza smashed another 3 plums, and they gobbled every bite.
Whoa, that's a lot.
A bit. So she let them have their fill until they started fussing and reaching for their bottles of milk. Enough of lunch, said Esperanza, cleaning their faces and gratefully thinking that it would soon be nap time. She slowly changed their wet diapers, remembering all of Josefina's and Isabel's instructions. She put Pepe down first with his bottle, and as directed, and when she fell asleep, she put Lupe next to him. Esperanza lay down too, wondering why she was so tired, and she dozed. She woke up to Lupe's whimpering and an atrocious smell. Brown liquid leaked from her diaper. Esperanza picked her up and carried her out of the room so she wouldn't wake Pepe. She changed her into a dry diaper and rolled the soiled one into a ball. Look at what Rafael did.
You have a mask on?
Yes, because he can imagine how it smells. Yeah, so she changed her into a dry diaper and rolled the soiled one into a ball and put it by the door until she could take it to the toilets. When she put Lupe back down, Pepe was sitting up in bed in the same condition.
Oh, they probably pooped in their beds.
So she repeated the diaper changing.
Oh my gosh. Wait, Esperanza, right?
They pooped in their beds.
With both babies clean, she left them in the bed and dashed to the toilets to rinse the diapers.
Now she has
then
to clean...
she ran back to the cabin.
Now she has to clean the bed sheets.
I don't know. They didn't talk about the bed sheets, but probably.
Yeah.
A different smell greeted her. The beans! She had forgotten to add more water.
Oh my goodness.
When she checked the pot, they appeared to be scorched only on the bottom. So she poured in water and stirred them. The babies cried and never went back to sleep.
Yeah, she can't do
Both dirtied their diapers again.
Oh my god! It's because they ate so many pie plums.
The wadded pile by the door grew. They must be ill, worried Esperanza. Did they have the flu, or was it something they ate? No one else had been sick recently.
Maybe there's something that they ate, of course.
What had they eaten today? Only their milk and the plums. The plums, she groaned. They must have been too hard on their stomachs. What did Hortensia give her when she was a child and was sick? She tried to remember. Rice water. But how did she make it? Esperanza put a pot on the stove and added a cup of rice. She wasn't sure how much water to add, but she remembered that when rice didn't come out soft, Hortensia always said it needed more water. She added plenty and boiled the rice. Then she poured off the water and let it cool. She sat on the floor with the babies and fed them teaspoons of rice water all afternoon, counting the minutes until Isabel walked through the door. What happened? Said Isabel when she arrived and saw the pile of diapers by the door. They were sick from the plums, said Esperanza, nodding toward the plate still on the table where she had smashed them.
Oh my God.
Oh,
So she had to change so many diapers?
yes.
Oh my God.
Oh, Esperanza, they are too young for raw plums. Everyone knows that plums must be cooked for babies, said Isabel. Well, I am not everyone, yelled Esperanza. She dropped her head and put her hands over her face. Pepe crawled into her lap, making happy gurgling noises. She looked at Isabel, already sorry for screaming at her. I didn't mean to yell. It was a long day. I gave them some rice water, and they seem to be fine now. Sounding surprised, Isabel said, that was exactly the right thing to do. Esperanza nodded and let out a long sigh of relief. That night, no one mentioned the number of rinsed and wrung diapers in the washtub outside the door, or the beans that were obviously burnt, or the pan of rice in the sink.
What?
Why is nobody saying anything?
Because
why didn't they say like, Esperanza, you burned the beans? Esperanza, what is all
Maybe
this?
she's not like a mom.
Because she's not like Hortensia or...
No, Atena, answer.
Sorry, Atena.
It's okay. It's because it's not like their mom. If she was a mom, then yeah, they'll tell her like, you have to do this, and kind of like a servant.
Oh, so what do you think, Rafael?
I forgot what I was gonna say.
Why do you think they're not telling her anything, Jackie?
Oh,
huh?
Why do you think they're not telling her anything?
Because Hortensia and the servants did everything for her, so she doesn't know how to do everything. So she's new to this kind of stuff. So
why wouldn't they say anything?
Because they know that she just grew up with servants and people are just helping her. People are just helping her.
Mm-hmm. That's a good idea.
And what did you think, Jackie? Why are they not saying, Esperanza, you made a mess, Esperanza?
You burned the beans. Because she didn't Esperanza did not notice that she didn't take I think that Esperanza I think they didn't tell her nothing because they didn't like check and like anything, and then they were just talking about what happened to the babies.
I think y'all are right. I think all of y'all are right because they understand that she's new to this job, right?
But then she didn't know yet.
Because she wasn't born when she was in Aguascalientes.
Yeah, and
she wasn't born like if I were
like she wasn't born like Isabel, right?
She wasn't born a servant.
So I think they were giving her a break. I think they were trying to be easy.
Yeah, maybe they were just
easy around her,
letting her take a break because there was her first time taking care of the babies.
Yeah, and they didn't. They're like, we
Miss,
understand.
I like this book so much.
I know, right? It's so good. So Esperanza nodded and let out a long sigh of relief. That night, no one mentioned the number of rinsed and wrung diapers in the wash tub outside the door, or the beans that were obviously burnt, or the pan of rice in the sink. And no one questioned Esperanza when she said that she was exhausted and wanted to go to bed early. The grapes had to be finished before the first fall rains and had to be picked rápido, quickly. So now there were no Saturdays or Sundays in the week, just work days. The temperature was still over 90 each day. That's not really hot. How hot does it get in San Antonio?
Like 100 degrees.
100 degrees, right?
Mhm.
Imagine working out in 100 degrees.
Like and right now, what did it say?
A little bit hot. 90 degrees.
The temperature was still over 90 each day. So as soon as Isabel's... So the temperature was still over 90 each day. So as soon as Isabel's bus left for school, Esperanza took the babies back to the cabin. She fixed their bottles of milk and let them play while she made the beds. Then she followed Hortensia's instructions for starting dinner before turning to the laundry. She was amazed at the hot, dry air. Often, by the time she had filled the clotheslines that were strung between the trees, she had only minutes to rest before the valley sun dried the clothes crisp and they were ready to fold. Irene and Melina came over after lunch and Esperanza spread a blanket in the shade. Esperanza liked Melina's company. In some ways, she was a young girl, sometimes playing with Isabel and Silvia, or telling Esperanza gossip as if they were school friends. In other ways, she was a grown-up with a nursing baby and a husband, and preferring to crochet with the older women in the evenings. Do you crochet? Melina asked. I know a little, but only a few stitches, said Esperanza, remembering Abuelita's blanket of zigzag rows.
She forgot about it.
Blanket of zigzag rows that she had been too preoccupied to unpack. Melina laid her sleeping baby girl on the blanket and picked up her needlework. Irene cut apart a 50-pound flour sack that was printed with tiny flowers to use as fabric for dresses. Esperanza tickled Pepe and Lupe, and they laughed. They adore you, said Melina. They cried yesterday when I watched them for the few minutes it took you to sweep the platform. It was true. Both babies smiled when Esperanza walked into the room, always reaching for her, especially Pepe. Lupe was good-natured and less demanding, but Esperanza learned to watch her closely, as she often tried to wonder why. Yes?
The part where it said when they're laughing, kind of reminds me when they're laughing at Esperanza when she couldn't sweep.
Mommy,
But this is kind of laughing, right? I read it wrong?
Yeah,
I read it wrong. Okay.
But together.
Lupe was good-natured and less demanding, but Esperanza learned to watch her closely, as she often tried to wander away. If she turned her back for a minute, Esperanza found herself frantically searching for Lupe. Esperanza rubbed Lupe's and Pepe's backs, hoping they would go to sleep soon. But they were restless and wouldn't settle even though they had their bottles. The afternoon sky looked peculiar, tinged with yellow, and there was so much static in the air that the baby's soft hair stuck out. Today is the day of the strike, said Melina. I heard that they were going to walk out this morning. Everyone was talking about it last night at the table, said Esperanza. Alfonso said he is glad that everyone from our camp agreed to continue working. He is so proud that we won't strike. Irene continued working on her flour sack and shaking her head. So many Mexicans have the revolution still in their blood. I am sympathetic to those who are striking, and I am sympathetic to those of us who want to keep working. We all want the same things, to eat and feed our children. Esperanza nodded. She had decided that if she and Mama were to get Abuelita here, they could not afford to strike. Not now. Not when they so desperately needed money and a roof over their heads. She worried about what many were saying. If they didn't work, the people from Oklahoma would happily take their jobs. Then what would they do? A sudden blast of hot wind took the flour sack from Irena's hands and carried it to the fields. The baby sat up, frightened. Another hot blast hit them, but kept on, and when the edges of the blanket blew up, Lupe reached for Esperanza, whining. Irene stood up and pointed to the east. The sky was darkening with amber clouds, and several brown tumbleweeds bounced around toward them. A royal of brown loomed over the mountains. Una tormenta de polvo! Dust storm, said Irene. Hurry!
Uh-oh.
They picked up the babies and ran inside. Irene closed the door and began shutting the windows. What's happening? Asked Esperanza. A dust storm, like nothing you have seen before, said Melina. They are awful. What about Mama and Hortensia and the others? Alfonso and Miguel, they are in the fields. They will send trucks for them, said Irene. Esperanza looked out the window. Thousands of acres of tilled soil were becoming food for La Tormenta, and the sky was turning into a
That's
brown...
a tornado, right?
A storm. La Tormenta means storm. And the sky was turning into a brown, swirling fog. Already she could not see the trees just a few yards away. Then the sound began. Softly at first, like a gentle rain. Then harder as the wind blasted the tiny grains of sand against the windows and metal roofs. The dirt showered against the cabin, pitting everything in its path. Get away from the window, warned Irene. The dirt and the wind can break the glass. The finer dust seeped inside, and they tried to seal the door by stuffing rags under it. Esperanza couldn't stop thinking about the others. Isabel was at school. The teachers would take care of her. But Mama, Hortensia, and Josefina were in the open shed. She hoped the trucks would bring them soon, and the fields. They could only imagine. She could only imagine. Alfonso and Juan and Miguel, could they breathe? Irene, Melina, and Esperanza sat on the mattresses in the front room trying to calm the babies. There was no relief from the heat in the closed room, and soon the air was hazy. Irene dampened some towels so they could wipe the babies and their own faces. When they talked to one another, they tasted the earth. How long does it last? Asked Esperanza. Sometimes hours, said Irene. The wind will stop first, and then the dust.
Wait, what was that song?
Oh, it was the mini one.
Oh.
Esperanza heard a meowing from the door. She ran to it and, pushing hard against the wind, opened it a crack. Isabel's kitten, Chiquita, darted in. There was no trace of her orange fur. The cat was powdered brown. The babies finally fell asleep, drowsy from the heavy air. Irene was right. The wind stopped, but the dust still swirled as if propelled by its own power. Irene and Melina left with Melina's baby, covered beneath a blanket, and rushed to their cabin. Esperanza waited, nervously pacing the room.
I hope they got the kitten.
And worrying about the others.
They got the kitten?
Mm-hmm. She opened the door just a crack, and the cat ran in.
And then she closed it.
Mm-hmm. The school bus came first. Isabel burst into the cabin crying, Mi gata, chiquita. Esperanza hugged her. She is fine but very dirty and hiding under the bed. Are you all right? Yes, said Isabel. We got to sit in the cafeteria all afternoon and play games with erasers on our heads. But I was worried about Chiquita. The door opened again and Mama walked into the cabin, her skin covered with an eerie brown chalkiness and her hair dusted like the cat's fur. Oh, Mama, I am fine, mija, she said, coughing. Hortensia and Josefina followed, and Isabel put her hands on her cheeks in worried surprise. You look like raccoons, she said. All of their faces had circles of pink around their eyes where they had squinted against the dust. The trucks could not find their way to the shed, so all we could do was sit and wait. We hid behind some crates and buried our heads, but it didn't help much. Josefina took the babies next door, and Mama and Hortensia began washing their arms in the sink, making muddy water. Mama continued to cough. What about Alfonso and Juan and Miguel? Asked Esperanza. If the trucks could not get to us, they could not get to the fields. We will have to wait, said Hortensia, exchanging a worried look with Mama. A few hours later, Juan, Alfonso, and Miguel arrived, their clothes stiff and brown, all of them coughing and clearing their throats every few minutes. Their faces were so encrusted with dry dirt that they reminded Esperanza of cracked pottery. They took turns rinsing in the sink, the pile of brown clothes growing in the basket. When Esperanza looked outside, she could almost see the trees, but the dust was still thick in the air. Mama had a coughing spasm, and Hortensia tried to settle her with a glass of water. When the adults all finally sat down at the table, Esperanza asked, "What happened with the strike?" "There was no strike," said Alfonso. "We heard that they were all ready and that there were hundreds of them. They had their signs, but the storm hit. The cotton is next to the ground and the fields are now buried in dirt and cannot be picked. Tomorrow they will have no jobs because of an act of God." "What will we do tomorrow?" asked Esperanza. "The grapes are higher off the ground," said Alfonso. The trunks of the vines are covered, but the fruit was not affected. The grapes are ready and cannot wait, so mañana we will go back to work." The next morning the sky was blue and calm, and the dust had left the air. It had settled on the world, covering everything like a suede blanket. Everyone who lived at the camp shook out the pottery soil, went back to work, and came home again as if nothing had happened. In a week they finished cutting the grapes. Then, while they finished packing the grapes, they were already talking about preparing for potatoes. The camp routine repeated itself like the regimented rows in the fields. Very little seemed to change, thought Esperanza, except the needs of the earth and Mama. Mama had changed, because after the storm, she never stopped coughing. What do you think happened?
Dust got in her.
Like the dirt got in her lungs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it damaged her lungs?
Mm-hmm.
Como le dañó sus pulmones, ¿verdad? And she says that she never stopped coughing. "Mama, you're so pale," said Esperanza. Mama carefully walked into the cabin as if she were trying to keep her balance and slumped into a chair in the kitchen. Hortensia was bustling behind her. "I am going to make her chicken soup with lots of garlic. She had to sit down at work today because she felt faint. But it is no wonder because she is not eating. Look at her. She has lost weight. She has not been herself since the storm, and that was a month ago. I think she should go to the doctor." "Mama, listen to her," pleaded Esperanza. Mama looked at her weakly. "I am fine, just tired. I'm not used to the work, and I've told you doctors are very expensive." "Irene and Melina are coming over after dinner to crochet," said Esperanza. She thought that would cheer Mama. "You sit with them," said Mama. "I'm going to lie down until the soup is ready because I have a headache. Then after dinner, I'll go straight to bed and get a good rest. I'll be fine." She coughed, got up, and slowly walked from the room. What do you think that the author is trying to tell us?
That the mom is getting really sick.
That the mom is getting really sick, and what could possibly happen to her? Jackie,
She
what?
can maybe pass away like his
She can
dad.
suffocate.
Right, I think they're trying to tell us that maybe she could pass away. She's in danger, right? Of dying.
Of suffocating.
And what would that mean for Esperanza?
She would be like an orphan.
She would be an orphan. She would not have no mama and no papa. So,
Wait, orphan means, what does orphan mean?
Que no tiene mamá ni papá. Va a ser huérfana.
Oh, like.
Huérfana.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
That means like you don't have your dad or mom anymore.
Mm-hmm. So Hortensia looked at Esperanza, shaking her head. A few hours later, Esperanza stood over Mama. Your soup is ready, Mama. But she didn't move. Mama, dinner, said Esperanza, reaching for her arm and gently shaking her. Mama's arm was burning. Her cheeks were flushed red and she wasn't waking. Esperanza felt panic squeezing her and she screamed, Hortensia! The doctor came. He was American, light and blonde, but he spoke perfect Spanish. He looks very young to be a doctor, said Hortensia. He has come to the camp before, and people trust him, said Irene. And there are not many doctors who will come out here. Alfonso, Juan, and Miguel sat on the front steps waiting. Isabel sat on the mattress, her eyes worried. Esperanza could not sit still. She paced near the bedroom door, trying to hear what was going on inside. When the doctor finally came out, she looked grim. He walked over to the table where all the women sat. Esperanza followed him. The doctor signaled for the men and waited until everyone was inside. She has valley fever. What does that mean? Asked Esperanza. It's a disease of the lungs that is caused by dust spores. Sometimes when people move to this area and aren't used to the air here, the dust spores get into their lungs and cause an infection. But we were all in the dust storm, said Alfonso. When you live in this valley, everyone inhales the dust spores at one time or another. Most of the time, the body can overcome the infection. Some people will have no symptoms at all. Some will feel like they have the flu for a few days. And others, for whatever reason, cannot fight the infection and get very sick. How sick? Asked Hortensia. Esperanza sat down. She may have the fever on and off for weeks, but you must try to keep it down. She will cough and have headaches and joint aches. She might get a rash. Can we catch it from her? The babies, asked Josefina. No, said the doctor. It isn't contagious. And the young children have probably had a mild form of it already, without you even knowing. Once the body fights off the infection, it doesn't get it again. For those who live here most of their lives, they are naturally immunized. It is hardest on adults who move here and are not accustomed to the agricultural dust. How long until she's well? Asked Esperanza. The doctor's face looked tired. He ran his hand through his short blonde hair. There are some medicines she can take, but even then, if she survives, it might take 6 months for her to get her full strength back. Esperanza felt Alfonso behind her, putting his hands on her shoulders. She felt the blood drain from her face. She wanted to tell the doctor that she could not lose Mama too, that she had already lost Papa, and that Abuelita was too far away. Her voice strangled with fear. All she could do was whisper the doctor's uncertain words. If she survives.
That's the end?
That's the end of chapter 9.